and share your love this winter. Please donate now to Islamic Relief.
Now on Islam Channel, the reports.
Good evening and welcome to the report with me, Anissa Omar. On tonight's programme, we'll be looking at how Sudanese activists protested against the country's economic crisis, but in a different way. Let's just say they did not take to the streets. We'll be asking what impact this has had. And following on from yesterday's attack on a German Christmas market and a mosque in Zurich, Switzerland, we discuss whether lone attacks such as these will be the norm for 2017 and what impact this will have around the discussion around the refugee crisis. But first, yesterday evening, the Russian ambassador to Turkey, Andrei Karlov, was assassinated at an art exhibition in Ankara. The tragic event is bound to bring important implications on the Turkish-Russian relations, which have been floundering in recent years. We look at this discussion with our analysts. We have Bill Bowring, a political commentator, on the line, and Alex MacDonald, a journalist from the Middle East Eye. So I'd like to ask first, Bill, it looks like Russians are bringing in several investigators for this shooting and killing of the Russian ambassador to Turkey. What do you think these investigations will shed light on?
Well, I think what is really interesting is that I've just looked at the website of the official Russian government paper, Rossiyskaya Gazeta, and they have President Putin's press spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, asking the question, to whom is it useful that this thing happens? And the Russian government line is that this is to drive a wedge between Russia and Turkey, if possible, and to disrupt the normalization of relations between Russia and Turkey on the question of Syria. And so I think the background to this is the fact that the ceasefires being negotiated in Aleppo were being negotiated between Russian intelligence and Turkish intelligence, not actually with the Syrians or anybody else. And so I would say that the Russians see this as an attempt to disrupt closer relations with Turkey. And Peskov went on to say on behalf of Putin that what is now needed is a really decisive fight against terrorism.
Alex, would you agree with Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting to see the reaction from the Turkish public and Turkish commentators over this, because after all, you know, only in the last week there have been huge demonstrations against Russia's actions in Syria, in Aleppo in particular. Someone just pointing out on Twitter, I was just saying that, you know, there were people who were, you know, demonstrating outside the Russian embassy and now placing flowers and condolences there. I mean, it's very interesting, sort of smoke and mirrors going on in terms of Turkish and Russian diplomacy at the moment. For the last several years, obviously, Erdogan has lambasted intervention in Syria and has obviously called the overthrow or opposed the Assad regime and his supporters. In the last few months, though, that's been rolled back, and there's now much more sort of carefulness about it. And, you know, you've got the Turkish foreign minister referring to his friend, the Russian foreign minister, and offering his condolences. I mean, it's very interesting. But, of course, what's really been reaped here is a sort of blowback from the sort of earlier rhetoric. If you were someone in the police force, or which is where this assassin was alleged to have come from.
Alex, so just before we get to the more implications of the assassination, can we just discuss a bit more the fact that this assassination took place? We're looking at the Russian ambassador to Turkey being shot dead within a conference in an art gallery. Is this something that was expected given their relations, and looking at the fact that it was spreading across social media? Is this something unusual to their relation narrative, would you say?
Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about. I mean, the point is that Erdogan has rebuilt the relationship with Russia over the last, 9 months or so, after a period of kind of intense sort of hostility, particularly after the shooting down the Russian jet. What happened here was, I don't believe for a second there was any government approval or involvement in this. This is clearly being done by a lone actor of some group or maybe involved in another international organization. Point is that this is not going to impact on their relations. If anything, it will strengthen them, and they'll both talk about the need to combat terrorism and how this is how they have to collaborate on security measures. So, I mean, I don't really see there being any sort of negative fallout in terms of their relationship here. I think that this will be a quite useful sort of bonding point for them.
Just coming on to the point I was just about to mention, in terms of bringing potentially their relations closer, what do you make of this bill?
Of what?
Of bringing potentially this assassination, bringing Turkish and Russian relations closer.
A few minutes ago, this is exactly what Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov is saying. I do think one of the issues for the investigators, by the way, is the fact when one looks at the video, there is this young policeman, 22 years old, in plain clothes, standing directly behind the ambassador when the ambassador's just about to open this photo exhibition. And he's clearly brought the revolver in with him. So I would say one of the issues will be what kind of security arrangements are there when someone as important as this ambassador, who's apparently also a personal friend of Putin, is out and about in the city of Ankara. So I'm sure that will be one of the questions.
And looking more at what the shooter or assassinator was saying, remember Aleppo? Of course, the issue of Syria has been very much a Turkish and Russian military as well as a political issue, as it were. Is this something that has been, do you think, not discussed enough within the media?
Well, I've been looking at the Russian media, and obviously the main item has been Berlin, and the murder of the ambassador actually is some way down. But the other, I think, very significant news, if we remember a few days ago, Daesh made a lightning, unexpected attack on Palmyra, and apparently the Russians had to flee from their base there. And today in the news is the fact that a senior officer, the commander of a parachute brigade in Palmyra, was killed just a couple of days ago in a mortar attack, and quite a few other Russian soldiers injured. And what we're now getting is that Russian troops are being killed in significant numbers in Syria. I mean, at least 30 and probably more so far. And part of what's going on in Russia is the question being raised whether this could be another Afghanistan for Russia, that they're dug into something which is going to be very difficult to get out of. So I'm sure that part of what they're thinking is that if there is a way out, then Turkey is almost certainly the key player.
Alex, what do you make of the shooter shouting about Aleppo and the potential reaction and awareness in some regard that he was trying to bring through this assassination?
Yeah, as I sort of saying, I think there's a generation of Turks who have, sort of built up this sort of sense of solidarity with the opposition in Syria, particularly nurtured in the security forces. And as he said, he probably referred to the phrase "we" when describing the people of Aleppo, and so it's probably some kind of, sort of Islamic solidarity thing that's been built up over many years. I think the thing is, though, now that there's been a reverse in terms of the relationship between Erdogan and Russia, which hasn't played out in much of the population, and particularly guys like this. So this is very clearly an act of sort of vengeance, I guess, for the killing going on in Aleppo.
And what else do you think this assassination could bring in terms of military ties between the two countries?
Well, I mean, this is just a very good reason for them to start increasing security ties and intelligence sharing. I mean, you understand there is something of a pivot going on, or at least a threatened pivot from Turkey at the moment due to its anger about both, the Western European American reactions to the coup, their refusal to extradite the Gulen, who they blame for the coup, and so this is a very good way for Turkey to sort of keep showing that it has other options in the region. Yeah, I mean, and also, as Bill was mentioning, the negotiations over East Aleppo, the evacuations, which seem to have gone, relatively successfully, are are largely down to the fact that Turkey and Russia are now on good speaking terms again. And also, of course, there is the tacit cooperation in northern Syria, where Turkey is now trying to target both Islamic State and Kurdish militias up there. So, I mean, this will just strengthen ties. I don't see any reason why this would cause any sort of halt or a freeze in, the new negotiations.
Bill, we obviously know that the assassinator was killed during the standoff with the police. What can we say in terms of the makeup of who he was? Is there anything that you've seen on Russian networks and Western as well as non-Western media outlets?
Well, I mean, what we've got on the Russian media is what's on the Turkish media, all over the Turkish media today, which is the picture of the assassin in his police uniform. And what I think must be very disturbing for the Turkish government is the fact that there's been a massive purge since the attempted coup, with many scores of police, prosecutors and judges being dismissed and many of them detained. And yet this chap has been able to get very close to the Russian ambassador with a revolver in a public space. Quite extraordinary. And on the other side of the room from where the crowd was, because you can see in some of the pictures the crowd cowering when the shots are fired, and apparently a couple of other people were injured as well. So from the way this chap is shouting, the video, by the way, is all over the media in Russia as well as I'm sure it is everywhere else. And there he is actually shouting for quite a long time after he's killed the ambassador. So, that is all rather odd. So maybe he's a lone wolf, maybe he's part of a group. I mean, I rather suspect the latter. And I don't think this will be, by any means, the last attempt to get at the Russians in Turkey and indeed elsewhere in Europe.
Well, thank you for your comments, both Alex and Bill, but we'll have to leave the discussion there. After the break, we'll bring into you the latest headlines and delve into the recent terror attacks in Europe. Don't go anywhere.
Surgeons, they are usually the last line of defense. In our time of need, they hold, in that brief moment, the power of life and death in their hands. Like a switch, they can change your fortunes. Through modern technology and intensive training, they can...
Hi there. You recognise me, don't you? Oh, you don't? Oh, well, let me remind you. I'm Alistair Greener, presenter of Health Show Live Surgery, where we bring you life-changing surgery live. But don't worry, I'm not the surgeon. We've got a team of experts who do that. And so far, we've brought you eye surgery, ankle surgery, and hair transplant surgery. And we've got lots more to come, so keep watching this space. Mind you, I could be a stand-in if they wanted me to.
This is Mohammed. With your generous donations, he was able to memorize the Holy Quran through UKIM's Hifz-ul-Quran project. This unique program of Hifz is dedicated to support and teach young children just like Mohammed to become Hafiz, guardians of the Holy Quran. Please visit ukim.org today, and with just £29 per month, you could sponsor a Hifz-ul-Quran, a never-ending sadaqah jariyah for you and your family.
Here at the Dawah Project, we work to bring you the best in religious programming. With your continued kind donations, we are able to bring you the best shows on Islam straight to your home. Your support allowed us to successfully broadcast Dawah over the airwaves into thousands of towns across the African continent. Help us continue spread Islam through the media by calling 0207 330 1744 or visit thedawahproject.com.
The temperature is dropping. The nights are drawing in. How are you preparing to stay out of the cold? Sometimes it's easy for us to forget those for whom winter is a time of harshness, not comfort. Your hands may be cold, but your hearts will stay warm if you allow the spirit of compassion to reach Palestinians in need. This winter, you can keep them out of the cold by coming together for Palestine.
Welcome back from the break. I'm Anissa Omar. Donald Trump won the Electoral College votes and secured his election as the 45th President of the United States, as the latest and perhaps last stop for the Trump movement failed to gain traction in the state capitals. Nathaniel Amos Sampson has this and the rest of the day's headline news.
Members of America's Electoral College convened at state legislatures across the country to formally anoint Donald Trump as the 45th President of the United States, with opponents attempting to urge electors to revolt and deny him power. With the minimum number of 270 needed to be declared president, Mr. Trump secured 304 electoral votes overall, compared to 227 for the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton. However, 7 electors rebelled and voted for other candidates, with 2 Republican electors in Texas writing in other candidates, as well as 5 Democratic electors in Washington State and Hawaii. At several capitals across the country, protesters demonstrated, urging members of the college not to vote for the Republican nominee, who in the final count received 2 million votes fewer than his Democratic rival and lost the popular vote by 2 points. The Electoral College result will now be officially certified at a special joint session of Congress in Washington, D.C. on January the 6th. The Christian governor of Jakarta in Indonesia has returned to court to fight allegations of insulting the Quran, which could see him jailed under the country's blasphemy laws. The high-profile case against Basuki Purnama, the first Christian to govern the capital in more than 50 years, has captivated the attention of the country. Purnama ignited a firestorm of criticism when he quoted a verse from the Quran back in September. The governor later apologized for his remarks, which angered Muslims in the country, many of whom marched against him in demonstrations and rallies, which were some of the largest the country had seen in years. In recent times, almost all blasphemy cases in Indonesia have resulted in convictions if found guilty, with the governor facing a maximum 5-year prison sentence if the trial rules against him. In Switzerland, a man who shot and wounded 3 people at an Islamic center in the city of Zurich has now been found dead a short distance away from the scene. The attacker opened fire on Monday evening at the Somali Islamic Center close to the Zurich station. A body and gun were later spotted under a bridge a few streets away by the police. Reports said that 2 victims, aged 30 and 56, were severely wounded, while a third man in his mid-30s was in a less serious condition. Most of the center's congregation come from Somalia, Eritrea, and North Africa. German authorities have begun clearing up the site of the truck attack yesterday evening, when the vehicle crashed into a Berlin Christmas market, killing 12 people, which German police are treating as a probable terrorist attack. At least 48 more people were said to have been wounded when the truck tore through the crowd late yesterday, smashing wooden stalls and crushing many victims. Images showed the mangled truck with its windscreen smashed and a trail of destruction in its wake, with various props from the marketplace obliterated.
Aber wir müssen nach jetzigem Stand von einem terroristischen Anschlag.
The German Chancellor Angela Merkel later condemned the attacks, saying that they were a likely terrorist act. Police have detained a suspect at the scene, who they said was an asylum seeker from Pakistan. However, in a press conference earlier this afternoon, they said that they were not absolutely clear as to whether the suspect was involved in the attack, saying that they now needed to work under the assumption that the perpetrator was still on the loose. Europe has been on high alert for most of 2016, with a series of attacks striking Paris and Brussels this year, while Germany has been hit by several assaults claimed by the Islamic State group.
Joining us to discuss the last two stories in that bulletin are on the attacks on Swiss mosque and the attack in German Christmas market with security expert Dr. Julian Richards. And we have on the line Zwala Yusuf, who is a Somali activist. I'd like to start with Julian. In terms of the attacks in Berlin, why has this been a probable terrorist attack?
Well, obviously, the first thing is to say that we don't know many details about the identity of the attacker or the driver even. And in fact, as we've seen, there are some reports that the German authorities feel they may have arrested the wrong person. But I think it's reasonable to speculate that it may well have been a terrorist attack just because of the sorts of attacks we've seen over the last 18 months or so, and particularly an attack very similar to this in Nice in July, which did turn out to be a terrorist attack. So, you know, on the balance of probabilities, this may well be a terrorist attack, but I think everybody is holding their fire for a moment until we know the details. And in fact, the story has got a little bit murkier in the last few hours than it was this morning. And you mentioned they've got the potentially the wrong suspect, the suspect being a man of Pakistani origin and an asylum seeker. Why do you think the media was quick to point out his identity and therefore potentially bring divides and a spate of Islamophobia? Well, as we know, in Germany at the moment, the whole issue about immigration and asylum is a hugely political issue at the moment. Merkel's decision to allow a large number of asylum seekers into Germany over the last couple of years is very, very controversial politically. So I think the media sort of very quickly speculated and seized upon whether this was indeed an asylum seeker. And again, we have actually seen a couple of attacks over the last 12 months in Germany that have transpired to be by asylum seekers. So there's always a risk that the media will jump to those conclusions. And talking about the politics of Germany, the increase of right-wing parties and the somewhat change of Merkel's stance on, for instance, the burqa, do you think such attacks could bring further right-wing ideology and political power? Yes, almost certainly. I mean, the Alternative für Deutschland party, which is very much on the right and very opposed to asylum seekers coming into Germany. I mean, this is already gathering steam politically and looks like it could be an important player in the elections next year in Germany. Not to such an extent that it'll win power, but it could certainly make a major dent in Angela Merkel's aspirations to form a new government. And so they will be making hay with this sort of situation. And if it does transpire that this was the work of an asylum seeker, then they will make great political capital from that and tap into right-wing, far-right sentiments that unfortunately are growing in Germany at the moment. And what is the stage of Germany in terms of the migration crisis? I understand that Germany's taken 1 million refugees. How has this affected the political stances within the whole country? In terms of constituencies. I didn't quite. How has it affected the constituencies? Has there been a complete rise of the right wing, or has it been a steady increase? Well, I think we should see this within a broader European context, because right-wing parties like AfD, which we sometimes describe as freedom parties, they've been rising across Western Europe and indeed parts of Eastern Europe over the last several years. There is a particular issue in Germany at the very different stance they've taken from many of their European neighbours on allowing these very large numbers of refugees to come into the country. So that may have given parties like AfD more capital in tapping into the public spheres and the majority community that this is going to lead to heightened terrorist threats. But I think while that's a thing specific to Germany, we should see this as a broad trend across Western Europe, where all sorts of far-right sentiments have been rising, as we know. And not only issues of migration, but also the involvement of European countries within the Middle East and other wars across within North Africa, Libya, to name but a few.
Is there a sense of division within societies growing because of somewhat resentment towards these governments?
Yes, I mean, that's clearly been a factor in the problems that we've seen in France over the last 2 years or so. France's involvement in the conflict in Syria and Iraq, coupled with some particular problems that it has in terms of social cohesion between different communities and the very marginalised position of some of those North African community groups in France. I think all of these things have sort of gone together in a very complex and dangerous brew to lead to really the falling apart of communities. So the big challenge when all of these things happen is to try not to inflame the situation and try and bring communities together rather than feed these sort of sectarian sentiments that we see on both sides, really.
Okay, I'd like to move our discussion on to what happened within Switzerland and the attack on the mosque. Douale, what is your thoughts on this attack?
Thank you very much for having me, Anissa, and I'm greeting to all of you. Number one, it's not the first time to be attacked by the Islamic mosques. Like Switzerland, it has been attacked in UK and destroyed one of the mosques. And also it happened in Sweden this year, I think, or the last year, at the end of the last year. And Somaliland has been attacked in many parts in Europe. I think what the Western countries do not understand, the immigrants coming from war-zone countries like Somalia or in Horn of Africa. I mean, the Eritreans are fleeing and Somalians are fleeing and Ethiopians. And because, I mean, the double standard of the West, like Ethiopia are invaded in Somalia in 2006 and created like Shabab. And what they're talking about is today is only immigrants like Mr. Farage, who is a UKIP former leader, who was talking about blaming the leader of Germany and blaming her because she's allowed a million refugees to come to Germany.
Could I just interject? In terms of looking at the issue of the mosque, do you think that the media has been quick to say that it was not a terrorist attack when attacking Muslims, but in comparison to the attack in Berlin that was to the wider society, it's regarded as not terrorism?
Absolutely. I mean, the word of Islam has become in the Western media, I mean, to blame Islam for everything. I mean, you never hear a Christian man attacked by a mosque. What you hear is attacker. And the media has to be blamed, and not the European people or American people or anybody else. I think the media has to be blamed over all picking up any Muslim person who might do wrong things or might attack anybody. And everything is about a terrorist attack by a Muslim. I think this is not. The media is dividing the Muslims and non-Muslims, the West or the Muslim countries, and this is a serious matter that they have to take. Like CNN has become, they were talking about last night, who is this person, who is this attacker, where he come from. And Margaret Angela has allowed million Muslims to come to Germany, and this is a problem. I mean, the West, they went to Africa, invaded Africa, and colonized. And, America even, 15th century, over nearly 50 million have been shipped from Africa to build in America. And there are more than 30 million black Africans still living in America. And nobody talks about that. If any incident happened today, you hear in every media in the West, Islamist.
Douale,
I think they should stop it.
Has there been any reaction in terms of the Somali diaspora and Somalis in Somalia in terms of what's happened to the victims within the mosque? Has there been any reaction on social media or condolences?
I haven't heard. I mean, we are a conservative society. I mean, we're not going to blame Swiss people or Swiss government for what had happened. But this is a serious and shocking for the community. And what we are asking for the Swiss government, this is not to happen, and they have to protect the worshippers and the Muslims of all in Switzerland. They're part of the society, and it's the government's responsibility. So still, I haven't heard from Somali community. But what we would like, the government of Switzerland has to protect this Muslim community of all, not only Somalia, but the Muslim community who live in
Okay, just we're wrapping up this discussion. Just to get a quick a soundbite from Julian. What are your thoughts in terms of the attack in Switzerland, and are the media responsible in how they cover both incidents in Switzerland and in Berlin?
Yeah, I think this is very fraught territory for the media, and actually I think they have tried, not all outlets for sure, but a lot of media agencies have tried to be, and governments for that matter, have tried to be slightly more circumspect about saying anything too much about an attack when it first happened. But of course, an attack like the one in Zurich is, we just don't know what the situation was. It could be any number of different things. Whereas a big attack like that in Berlin does look very similar to the attack that happened in Nice. So we've got something we can compare.
And while we've got you, Julian, on the line as a security expert, what would the security implications be for such attacks?
What in
terms
Zurich,
of upping the scale of security, what could possibly be done to protect the victims and society at large?
Well, of course, there are different types of attack, but generally these are extraordinarily difficult attacks to protect against. But when they suddenly come out of the blue, particularly if they're committed by what we sometimes describe as lone wolf actors who are working largely alone without much contact with other people, these are very, very difficult things to protect communities against. But we just have to think about how we secure public places, how we secure buildings and institutions like mosques where this may happen, and try and do the best we can. But these, intelligence is usually the only thing that we can hold on to here. Hoping that the authorities get some sort of information about plans for such attacks before they happen.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Julian, and for you, Dwale. I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on events happening across Europe. After the break, we'll be looking at the Twitter storm that was Sudan civil disobedience hashtag and whether it's proved successful. We'll see you after this break.
"2016, a year of hardship for some, a moment of glory for others. But how did it end in the business world? What were the big stories of the year? We look back at the winners and losers in Big Business Stories of 2016, Monday the 26th of December at 10:30 p.m. on Islam Channel.
Istanbul, Turkey's economic center, is host of the international trade event Musiad.
Musiad Expo is one of the biggest exhibition, general trade exhibition in our region, Europe and Asia.
We are trying to develop the business of our members, the business of our countries.
The event looks to attract visitors from all around the world, especially from Muslim countries, to encourage and build inter-Muslim trade.
The priority is to have more trade, to have more industrial relations between Islamic countries.
The potential for inter-Islamic trade is huge.
Travel Express presents brand new and amazing Umrah packages which include all flights, accommodation, hotel and transport. Umrah for a 7-night stay from only £749 or 10 nights from £999. With over 30 years of expertise, we at Travel Express have been making your trips to the holy site stress-free and rewarding. Pray Jummah in Masjid Al-Aqsa from £549. Or journey to the 3 holy mosques and pray in Masjid Al-Aqsa Mecca and Medina from only £1,749. Call us today on 08000 842 049 or visit hajjandumrahexpress.com and book your journey of a lifetime. Ilma is an exciting Islamic lifestyle e-magazine exploring religion, spirituality, social issues, health, culture, world cuisine and style. With a global readership of over 100,000, Ilma is now available to download as a brand new app on your tablet or smartphone. You can enjoy all this fantastic educational content from the palm of your hand. Ilma magazine brought to you by the Dawah Project, spreading Islam through digital media. For more information and advertising opportunities, please call 0207 330 1744.
Introducing Migo and Ali, Love for the Prophets, a brand new book by Zainab Mian. Explore multiple stories about the prophets of Islam, from Adam to the final prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in 164 glorious pages with full color illustrations. Suitable for children aged between 4 and 12 and published by Muslim Children's Books in partnership with the Dawah Project. Order today by visiting muslimchildrensbooks.co.uk.
Welcome back from the break. I'm Anissa Omar. Now, protesters in Sudan this week held a day of disobedience against austerity measures in the country and increasing discontent with the ruling government of the long-time President Omar al-Bashir. Al-Afsa Ahmed has more.
In a country ruled by a military hardman for the last 27 years, civil disobedience has taken a unique twist. Instead of taking the risk to go out onto the streets and potentially lose life and limb, citizens are refusing to come to work or school. It was held on Monday to debatable success, but it sent a clear message to Bashir's government that people aren't happy. This is the second civil strike that has happened so far. Last month, citizens walked out for 3 days in response to the Sudanese government imposing a fresh round of austerity measures. This came at a time when the economy was doing so badly that many Sudanese were struggling to make ends meet. The rise in petrol and diesel prices led to an increase in the cost of many basic goods, including medicines. As a result of the strike, the government eventually backtracked on medicines. It seems that as a result of how the government dealt with the protests before, this time round, fewer people followed the calls. Some have said that one of the key reasons for this was the people's annoyance of the attempts of the opposition and other groups such as the SPLM North Rebel Group to take control of the campaign. There isn't a clear organisation that has organised these strikes. It has mainly come from social media, from a number of users with no particular affiliation. Perhaps this is the reason to its slowly being compromised. However, despite this, the civil disobedience campaign has invigorated activists and many who are opposed to the government. Some feel a rare feeling of power when they are more often used to helplessness. Yet the form of protest also shows its limitations. As Bashir himself said, keyboard activists and people sitting around in their homes are unlikely to topple him. Afzal Ahmed, The Report.
Joining us to discuss this is Ali Abdurrahim Ali, a Sudanese blogger and activist based in Atlanta in the United States, who was not on the ground in Sudan, but of course can give us quick updates on the issue. Ali, can I ask, in terms of the civil disobedience hashtag, what is the movement behind it?
Yeah, there are so many reasons behind civil disobedience. This is a regime that came to power through a military coup 27 years ago and stayed in power since through oppression, through all measures, just to keep power. And the latest on what's happening was that there were so many bad economic decisions, coupled with also dismissal of the people of Sudan, their opinion, their feelings. That led to an escalation of the feeling of people to a point where they took to the internet and they created so many groups because these were the only channels through which people could express themselves freely.
So were normal protests, in terms of going out on the streets, just not working? So this civil disobedience of people refusing to go to work and to school, the only option?
This is a regime that has detained people and is detaining people right now who are expressing their views. This is a regime that when people demonstrated peacefully on the streets in 2013, they killed 200 demonstrators in a direct kill to shoot to kill type of orders. This is a regime that is threatening people and daring people to come out of the streets peacefully, and because if that happened, and I'm quoting the president here, if that happened, then we will do to you what we did to you in 2013, which was a direct shoot to kill orders. So in a way, the disobedience is a more subtle way of less confrontational way of expressing the will of the people.
So what has been the economic situation of Sudan under Bashir? His hold on power, is that a result of economic demise?
So the economic situation could be summed in symbolic way that people are not able to afford to buy medicine and to buy daily needs. And that's due to any dictatorship. When it lasts for so long, then they come to a point where the policies and the incompetence of the regime has led to that. So people are looking for freedom. They're looking for democracy. They're looking for transparency. They're looking for lack of corruption, because these are all anti what this regime is about. This regime is about corruption. There is a lot of corruption. There is a lot of bad policies. There is a lot of spending on their own security of the regime itself. Probably about 70% of their resources are going towards that. There are militias over there, the wars over there that are sponsored by the regime. And on top of that, also because of the disastrous policies, foreign policies of the regime is also creating a lot of disconnect from the international community. And all of that is going to be gone when we have a democratic system that is fair and that's transparent.
And what has been the reaction of the government to the civil disobedient protests?
Unfortunately, they're intimidating people. But just preempting the disobedience, they detained tens of additional activists, and prior to that, they also they've been detaining, and still there are people in detention that are leaders of so many political and so many activists over there. So prior and even during this disobedience, there was a lot of intimidation from the government, threatening people to fire them, threatening people to lock them, and threatening people that they will never have their businesses back if they participate in the disobedience.
Do you think, Ali, a lot of people will be surprised at the protests of civil disobedience in Sudan because there's not enough coverage of what's happening in Sudan?
So I cannot hear you well, but if I understand correctly, there was a wide participation from people. Just to give you an example, there is a single Facebook group, and that is one of many Facebook groups that are the memberships are all activists and enthusiastic about change here. That Facebook group is now approaching 500,000, and that's a single Facebook group that's boiling over there. And there are also so many people who do not have access to the internet or to smartphones. These people are reached to by the activists, and they are also complaining, and they are also part of this huge movement.
So you're telling us, Ali, that there is the use of social media to bring awareness to the civil disobedience protests in Sudan, and therefore a bigger awareness of the political and economic grievances happening in the country. I'd like to thank you for your comments, but unfortunately that's all the time we have for this episode of The Report. I'd like to thank my guests on the show and to you at home for watching. We'll leave you with scenes of the Way Kambas National Park in Indonesia's jungle, which is trying to save the Sumatran rhino from disappointing and disappearing forever. Unfortunately, there are no more than 100 left on the entire planet. We'll see you tomorrow and the same time. Until then, have a good night.
Agak dalam lagi dikit.
Istanbul, Turkey's economic center, is host of the international trade event Musiad.
Musiad Expo is one of the biggest exhibition, general trade exhibition in our region, Europe and Asia.
We are trying to develop the business of our members, the business of our countries.
The event looks to attract visitors from all around the world, especially from Muslim countries, to encourage and build inter-Muslim trade.
The priority is to have more trade, to have more industrial relations between Islamic countries.
The potential for inter-Islamic trade is huge.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear beloved brothers and sisters. If you are missing out on the Tajweed show, or if you are struggling in your recitation of Quran, then please join me every Saturday at 5 o'clock on Islam channel to watch the Tajweed show.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق 7 سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين وأعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير وللذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن فمن يأتيكم بماء معين.
Surgeons, they are usually the last line of defense. In our time of need, they hold in that brief moment the power of life and death in their hands. Like a switch, they can change your fortunes. Through modern technology and intensive training, they can...
Hi there. You recognise me, don't you? Oh, you don't? Oh, well, let me remind you. I'm Alistair Greener, presenter of Health Show Live Surgery, where we bring you life-changing surgery live. But don't worry, I'm not the surgeon. We've got a team of experts who do that. And so far, we've brought you eye surgery, ankle surgery, and hair transplant surgery. And we've got lots more to come, so keep watching this space. Mind you, I could be a stand-in if they wanted me to.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear beloved brothers and sisters. If you are missing out on the Tajweed show, or if you are struggling in your recitation of Quran, then please join me every Saturday at 5 o'clock on Islam channel to watch the Tajweed show.
Istanbul, Turkey's economic center, is host of the international trade event Musiad.
Musiad Expo is one of the biggest exhibition, general trade exhibition in our region, Europe and Asia.
We are trying to develop the business of our members, the business of our countries.
The event looks to attract visitors from all around the world, especially from Muslim countries, to encourage and build inter-Muslim trade.
The priority is to have more trade, to have more industrial relations between Islamic countries.
The potential for inter-Islamic trade is huge.
Are you using your ISA to its maximum benefit? The annual ISA allowance limit has increased to £15,000 per tax year. You can now invest or transfer existing balances into a Sharia-compliant stocks and shares ISA with Oasis from as little as £100 per month or a one-off lump sum of £1,000. This opportunity can be yours. To take advantage of this tax-free savings opportunity, contact Oasis today on 0808 238 7543 or visit oasiscrescent.com. Commitment unwavering.
Are you ready for this winter? Turning up the thermostat, running a warm bath, pouring yourself a hot drink. We're all ready for winter. Unfortunately, others are not. Thousands of orphans need your help to survive the winter. Your donation will provide an orphan with a warm winter coat, a hat, a scarf, gloves and winter shoes. Call 03000 121 121 to donate £30 now.
Burgester Brothers. Extraordinary gourmet burgers. Now open in Piccadilly Circus.
With millions lacking adequate shelter, heating, blankets, and even food, many will die from the cold this winter.